Hello everybody, this is General Yanis, and today I'm continuing looking at the Thousand Suns Codex, and today I'm looking at the very interesting unit of the Scarab Occult Terminators, and here we have also a BLightlord looking at their stats to see how these two guys compare to each other. So let's get started. So today is the 2nd of September. As I said, this video will focus on the Scarab Occult Terminators, an elite choice in the Thousand Suns Codex, basically probably a mainstay of the army. So we'll be looking at the stats and abilities, comparing the weapons and the damage output, looking at their durability, making a summary comparison to other units like the BLightlord Terminators, or also Plague Marines and Rubric Marines, etc. Then we'll be looking at the various ways that the Thousand Suns can buff and make combos with these guys to improve the damage and the durability. Finally, looking at how Death Card efficiently could take out Scarab Occult Terminators. So with no further ado, let's get started. So let's look at the stats and the weapons for the Scarab Occult Terminators. The Scarab Occult Terminators can be in a squad of 5 up to 10 models. The base cost is 40 points per model, like the BLightlord Terminators. They have the stats of 6-inch movement, 3+ to hit, and they have strength 4, toughness 4, 3 wounds. They have gone up from wounds 2, so now they are equivalent to the other Terminators. They have 3 attacks each. The leadership is 9 for the sorcerer and 8 for the Terminators. They have a 2+ save, and they have a Terminator 5+ invul save, and they would also get a 5+ invul save for being in detachments of Thousand Suns. So the keywords is the infantry and core, and they are of course also a psyker with a sorcerer in there. They can be part of the Great Cult, Arcana Astartes, etc. The abilities that they are benefiting from are the malicious volleys. This allows them always to rapid fire their combi bolters, so they can always fire 4 shots as Terminators. They can do the teleport strike with the Terminator armor. They have the All is Dust ability, giving them +1 save versus damage 1, in essence ignoring 1 more AP pip from the opponent weapon, as they already have a 2+ save. They auto-pass morale, and they have, as I said, the 5+ invul save. They can cast 1 and deny 1 spell per turn. They know 1 spell from the Codex and Smite, and of course also all sorcerers know their Great Cold psychic power. As a Thousand Suns detachment ability, they also get Objective Secure, and they also get that no penalty moving and shooting heavy weapons, and they have access to some nice heavy weapons, so that's nice that they don't have to shoot with a penalty. So Objective Secure on Terminators with high durability and damage output is very strong, of course. Now looking at their weapons, the Occult Terminators, their standard loadout is the Infernal Combi Bolter and the Prospering Kopesh. The Kopesh, this sword, Egyptian style thing that they still have in the 40,000 world, of course. The Combi Bolter is a rapid fire 2. As I said, for Terminators, they are always rapid firing, so they will be having 4 shots. And it has a nice profile of the Thousand Suns with strength 4, AP -2, and damage 1. Much better than the bolter we have in Death Guard. Looking at the options for the shooting weapons, 1 model in 5 can replace their Inferno Bolt Gun with either a Heavy Warp Flamer or a Soul Reaper Cannon. And we see the Heavy Warp Flamer is a D6 12-inch flamer, strength 5, AP -2, damage 1, auto hit weapon. But we see the Soul Reaper Cannon has heavy 5 shots, so here we have a D6 shot, here we have 5 shots always, a 24-inch, strength 6, AP -3, damage 1, so this is a really strong weapon against enemy infantry that don't have invul saves, Marines, for example. So this is a very strong weapon for 5 points more. Additionally, 1 model in 5 in the group can add the Hellfire Missile Rack for 10 points more. That's a heavy 2 weapon with a higher range, strength 8, AP -2, and damage D3. So this adds a bit more damage output against the tough targets like vehicles. And this is, as I said, one model can add this to the squad on top of their normal weaponry. And then their melee weapon, the excellent Prospering Koppesh, so it's strength +1, so it's a strength 5, AP -3, and damage 2. So we can see all their weapons have a very nice high AP stats, and a damage 2, making it good against, for example, Space Marines and things with multiple wounds. Still, Death Guard with damage 1, with Discussing Resilience. I can reduce this, but there are some tricks up the Thousand Sun sleeves we'll be getting back to. Looking at the Sorcerer, his standard weapon is the Inferno Combi Bolter, like the Terminators, and he has a Force Stave, which is a +3, so strength 7, AP -1, D3 damage weapon. That's his standard. He can replace his Combi Bolter with a Koppesh, so he would have 2 melee weapons. So I think it's probably better just to leave him with a Combi Bolter to add a bit more shooting. But yeah, he could also, in principle, get the Koppesh. So all in all, some elite Terminator infantry with nice AP weapon and objective secure, making them very interesting, almost auto-include for any Thousand Suns army. Looking at the Terminator's range weapons, let's look at their baseline damage output, and this is not corrected for points. Here we see the normal targets I'm usually simulating. The General Yanis 31 targets here with various invul saves, various toughness, number of wounds, infantry's vehicles, etc. From very durable to, let's say, more horde type enemies here. Here is also the Death Guard, which has Disgusting Resilience added here for reference, and the higher toughness of Death Guard here. And we can see here with the blue line is the Inferno Combi Bolter, average damage for one weapon here, firing 4 shots. We can see the blue line. It can do some okay damage against normal, let's say, targets. Struggles a bit against Death Guard due to the toughness 5 of the Death Guard. And here we can then see the orange line is the Soul Reaper cannon, and the gray line is the heavy Warp Flamer, and we can see that nearly for any target, the Soul Reaper cannon is better than the heavy Warp Flamer, and it has a longer range with their 5 shots. And we can see, for example, especially against something like a Plague Marine with a mean AP -3 of the Soul Reaper cannon, that's really strong weapon here. The Hellfire Missile Rack, for 10 points more, it can give you a bit more damage output. As a D3 weapon, it's not super efficient against Death Guard, but for most normal targets, it adds a lot of, it adds nice damage output, especially here against toughness 7 opponents, as you can see here. So looking at a Terminator with ranged weapon options, his baseline damage output, now correcting for the point increase to take a special weapon. So we have here the Terminator, just a standard with his Inferno Combi Bolter for 40 points is the blue line. The Terminator with a Soul Reaper cannon for 45 points is the orange line. And then if we just add the Terminator with the Combi Bolter, we give him the Hellfire Missile Rack. We can also give it to the guy with the Soul Reaper cannon. It increases his damage output per point. So for 10 points, I think I would always include the missile Hellfire Rack, and for 5 points, I think it's quite cheap to get this boost of damage output with the Soul Reaper cannon. If we look at now we switch focus from the shooting to the melee. Looking at their melee weapons baseline, the damage output uncorrected here, we have the Koppesh and the Force Stave for the Sorcerer. The Koppesh has a nice damage output versus, let's say, the normal targets, and versus Death Guard being a damage 2 weapon. For the units that have Disgusting Resilience, it's not as effective. We see the Force Stave has quite similar damage output, so I can't see a very big point in replacing the Sorcerer's Bolter, losing 4 shots for a Koppesh. Again, damage 2 weapon, good in melee, not so much for Death Guard, but as I said, there are some tricks up the Thousand Sun sleeves for this. Now looking at the baseline durability for the Scarab Occult Terminators per 100 points here. Basically, this is how many wounds are we putting on the table, how many shots can we take for the 100 points we are investing in different units. Here I have a collection of weapons that I'm just trying to give a range of various weapons you can encounter. So here we have more anti-infantry weapons like bolt rifles and Gauss Reapers and heavy bolters and things like that. Down here we have stronger weapons like las cannons, melta guns, dark lances, entropy cannons, etc. A bit more Cognis las cannons, etc. Here very strong weapons, more anti-vehicle related weapons down here. And here we can see how many shots would it take from this weapon to kill 100 points of the model. So if we have 68 bolt rifle shots from intercessors in the tactical doctrine, 68 of those would be required to kill 100 points of the Scarab Occult Terminators. We can see here that if we compare the number of shots they can take, we can see still that the BLightlord Terminators, for most of the weapons, and especially the weapons with 2 damage as expected, they are more durable. But the damage 1 light infantry weapons, then the Scarab Occult Terminators, they have the +1 save, so then they can actually take more. They could take more heavy phosphor blaster shots than the BLightlord Terminators. Due to this +1 save they will be getting. Compared to Rubric Marines and Plague Marines, the Scarab Occult Terminators are a bit more similar durability, a bit higher here with a 2+ save. And what we can see, they are a bit more vulnerable for this heavy weapon, for the heavy weaponry. They don't have disgusting resilience, they can't get the +1 to the save, and they only have a 5+ invul compared to the 4+ invul of the BLightlords. So definitely not as durable for heavy weapons fire as the BLightlords, but very decent against anti-infantry weaponry. Here in this table, I'm trying to summarize then for some squad comparison versus relevant Thousand Suns and Death Guard units. So here we see basically it's a summary of the previous slide with some more averaging going on here. So here we see Thousand Suns units, here we see Death Guard units, here we have the average damage output versus the General Yanis 31 targets, not including the Death Guard targets I was showing you at 24-inch, 12-inch and melee. Here I'm adding the melee and the 12-inch damage together, so if you make both a shooting and a charging and fighting. So here we see the Scarab Occult Terminators. They have a very good damage output shooting. They have better than the Rubric Marines and better shooting damage output with BLightlords, even with special weapons like the Reaper autocannon here, or the standard Plague Marines. So very, very good damage output, especially with the Soul Reaper and the missile rack, so 2.6 wounds per 100 points. In melee, they are not as good as, for example, BLightlords, where we have the flail, or if I will also add the Plague Marines with melee squad, but they are better also in melee than the Rubric Marines, definitely with a Kopesh, but still not as good per point as the Changors I covered in my last review. And then if we look at the durability here, we can see still BLightlord Terminators against anti-infantry firepower. The BLightlords on average can take more shots from this cocktail of weapons I was looking at before. The most durable unit I've analyzed so far. And then we can see the Scarab Occult Terminators and the Rubric Marines, depending on the weapons, they are quite similar in durability. But we can see against heavy weaponry, they can take so much fire as per 100 points at least as some of the other units we have here. Their big benefit compared to BLightlord Terminators and other Terminators is that they have the objectives secure. They are of course a core unit that can benefit additionally to be buffed in several ways. So now that we've looked at the baselines, let's look at some selected buffs and combos. Something first, how to increase the damage output. As I said, they are a core unit, and there are several things you can do to increase their damage output. We can give them, of course, reroll once to hit from, for example, Exalted Sorcerers or Ahriman or something like this. a core unit aura. This gives 17% more damage output, basically, to be able to reroll the ones to hit. There is the Infernal Fusillade stratagem for 1 command point, giving you 1 additional attack with bolt fire weapons. So that increases, let's say, 5 shots instead of 4 shots for the combi bolters. Percentage-wise, it would be also interesting for the Rubric Marines. Then instead of, let's say, shooting 2 shots, you would be shooting 3 shots with her bolter. So yeah, it's always, if you need a bit extra shots, you can consider this stratagem. There is, of course, the Wrath of the Wronged, 2 command points, +1 to wound. This is a bit expensive, like the Eternal Hatred for Death Guard, also 2 command points to get +1 to wound, but it could be interesting in a lot of scenarios. Then we have the Soul Reaper stratagem for 1 command point, allowing you to shoot 10 shots with a Soul Reaper instead of 5 if you're facing a big enemy unit with more than 10 models. Then with the Infernal Master, he can make an Infernal Pact on a 3+, or you can use some command points to do it auto-hitting, auto-passing. Then there is the Maelstrom you can choose and give +1 strength to the shooting of a ranged unit. And then the Thousand Suns, they have a relic for a character, a Glainken's Orrery for giving a 6-inch aura for core units to ignore any modifiers to their attacks, be it for weapon skill, ballistic skill, hit roll, wound roll, and ignore any abilities that reduce damage. And this is basically the anti-death guard relic here. I guess this guy is just pulling his hairs out if he has any left. There are, of course, being Thousand Suns, there is a lot of psychic powers to choose from. Some of the blessings, something is that can improve the damage output is Presage, a warp 7 to cast, gives +1 to hit for a unit. This is always nice, so it could be combine the Presage and the reroll 1s to hit. You will be hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. There is a lot of Witchfire to add mortal wounds from your sorcerer if you are close enough to the enemy. And then there is also, for example, the Temporal Surge, allowing you to move the unit to make an additional normal move if you want to come to charge with your Kopesh wielding Terminators. So here, looking at some of these buffs, if we take the Scarab Occult Terminators just with bolters and their damage output versus the general 31 targets, you will be doing 2 wounds on average. If we add reroll 1s, the Presage for +1 to hit and the +1 strength of the Pact, we will be doing 3.4 damage. It's 80% damage increase. This is the damage output that you would get for a 5-arm unit, so there is quite a lot of extra damage you can pull out doing these combos. If we look also at the squad with the Scarab Occult Terminators, where we have 1 Soul Reaper and the missile, then with the same combo, we are starting from a higher level. We get more wounds. Percentage-wise, we don't gain so much because the strength doesn't help for the average, at least, of the targets. So the strength doesn't help as much as it would help the combi bolter. Finally, an example of the Glagen's Orrery. If we give the Scarab Occult Terminators here, they are fighting in melee against different Death Guard units with Discussing Resilience. The blue line is the baseline where they don't get any buffs. The light blue is if we give them +1 strength to the Kopesh, so instead of 5 it becomes 6, so wounding better for toughness 5. But yeah, it's quite small improvement. But if we also give them the ability to reduce, to ignore the Discussing Resilience, then we basically double up the damage here, and we can kill expected 10 wounds on a unit of Plague Marines. So basically 5 Plague Marines gone here expectedly. Mortarion can still survive quite a lot. He will be getting 3 wounds from this 5-man squad here with Kopeshes and the Force Stave. But again, Possessed and other units will be taking much more damage now that with this combo, the Thousand Suns could ignore the Disgusting Resilience. Another area where we can buff considerably the Terminators here is the survivability. So in the Legion command, you can select before the battle, you can upgrade the Occult Sorcerer for plus 15 points. You give him the ability that in the command phase, one of the models regains all lost wounds, and I think this is nicely applicable to Terminators with 3 wounds. There is high chance you get one with 2 wounds or maybe 1 wound left. He would be for free, okay, for the 15 points at least. Every command point, he can be coming up to full wounds. Then we have the stratagem Warped Regeneration. This is very strong. If the unit makes a psychic test of 9+, you can play this stratagem and then you heal a model for D3 wounds, or if there is no hurt model, you can bring a dead model back. So this is very strong to bring a 45 point model back, basically for 1 command point, and there is a lot of combos the Thousand Sons can do to make sure they can hit high psychic tests, for example, with Kabbalistic rituals. There is a lot also of psychic powers that can improve the durability and survivability of the units. So the Weaver of Fates can give them a 4+ invul for the turn instead of the 5+ invul, so really improving their durability versus heavy weapons. A Glamour of Change, -1 to be hit, like my Asthma equivalent. This is typically allows a unit to take 33% more shots. The Temporal Manipulation is a Warp 5 for healing D3 wounds, so quite a few ways to heal wounds. And then Time Flux, if you have the Cult of Time, let's say like the Plague Companies of the Death card, for a Warp 6, you can bring a dead model back. And this is again very strong to be used for one of the most expensive units in the Codex. So 40 points model bringing back. And yeah, manipulating, playing with time, and the Death card looking at their Plague Surgeon and say, why can't you bring us back? I mean, that should be possible in the Death card squad. If Space Marines can do it, 1,000 Suns, of course, they are sorcerers and they can do a lot of stuff. It would be nice if Death card also could bring some dead Terminators back. So in the final page with a lot of numbers and tables, here we look at the Death card fighting different units, shooting or doing melee damage versus the Scarab Occult Terminators. This is again just baselines, but just to show that from the ranged, from distance, the unit that can do most damage is the Plagueburst Scroller with Entropy and Slugger. The Mortar, of course, we should be using the Disgusting Force stratagem on top. This is not included here, but the Entropy Cannons with 3+ D3 damage will be killing outright a Terminator if they can go through their 5+ invul. The Contemptors with Twin Volkites, this is again the baseline. The AP0 doesn't help against the 2+ save of the Terminators. Of course, there will be some mortal wounds. This can be buffed a little bit, but again, it looks like the Plagueburst Crawler is most efficient also per point here. If we go over to melee, which is one of the strong points of the Death card, I think the units that have multi-damage weapons options, like the Plague Marine melee squad with flails and cleavers and maces and stuff like that, they can do better than damage 1 plague knives. The Death Shroud with their heavy profiles, Typhus, Mortarion, the Demon Prince, everything with heavy damage profiles. The Chaos Spawn also quite good here. It's good that they can do this. Reaching to the summary and final thoughts, I think it can be concluded that the Scarab Occult Terminators are a very solid unit. I guess you can't, yeah, it's difficult to play 1,000 Suns without at least a couple of units of Terminators. I think, yeah, really important for the 1,000 Suns arsenal. As we have seen, they have good baseline range damage, especially if they take the Soul Reaper and the missile launcher here on the back of this Terminator here. And their melee damage with a Kopesh damage 2 weapon is strong. As being a core unit, it can be buffed significantly, as we saw, with stratagems, with relics, with psychic powers, giving them rerolls and plus to their hit and wound rolls, etc. They can, of course, add the psychic damage from the Witchfire things, and then this aura of the relic to ignore disgusting resilience and ignore any modifiers for the to hit rolls, etc., is really strong, making the Khopesh a really dangerous weapon against the Death Guard, being able to do the full 2 wounds, for example. They are durable like the Rubric Marines. It helps for them that they can auto-pass the morale, and the objective secure is really strong when they have this staying power, let's say. They are most vulnerable to some high damage weaponry that they can kill them outright. They only have, let's say, normally a 5+ invul and a toughness 4. So if you can shoot them with some high weapons or in melee with some of our strong, some of the death cards, for example, strong hitting units, you can take some out, but they combine with the blessings they can get and the revives with stratagems, etc. It can be difficult to take them out, especially if they are in a bigger squad. So this concludes this video. What do you think about the Occult Terminators? What do you think about their comparison with the BLightlord Terminators? Leave some comments below. Let me know if I missed some combo and synergy, and yeah, let me know what you think. If you like this if you like this video, please press like and subscribe to my channel. I will be bringing you more tactics and strategy videos for Death Guard, for other chaos factions like the Thousand Suns, and eventually even more armies. If you want to support my efforts and the channel and appreciate the effort that goes into making this type of video and all this analysis, please visit my Patreon page. Yeah, with these words, General Yanis is signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.